Hello, this is Angela Kerr from Passion Fruit Networking Group, bringing you interviews with Americans. Today we're at Metropolitan State College of Denver, soon to have university in its name, as they have begun providing advanced degrees. We have the opportunity today to interview a distinguished professor, Kishore Kulkarni, from the economics department, who has served this community for over 30 years. I wanted to give our viewing audience a little background about the qualifications of the instructor and to give you an idea of the types of awards he's received here on campus. First, he has received Outstanding Teaching, Outstanding Researcher Scholar, Distinguished Service to the College, and Extraordinary Service to the College Awards. His impressive resume is available on his website, which is www.kulkarnibooks.com. In addition to serving the community, he also is an instructor, of course, of economics for the college. And to give our viewing audience an idea of the coursework, macroeconomics course that he teaches, I'm going to read directly from the syllabus. The course focuses on overall economic issues and GDP calculation, working of market system in a capitalistic economy, theories of consumption and investment multiplier analysis, fiscal and monetary policy making in the U.S., and monetary theories of Keynes, the classical economists, and the monetarists. The main objective is to enable students to obtain basic understanding of U.S. institutions such as the Federal Reserve System and commercial banks. Professor Kulkarni is also a published author. I'm showing a couple of texts that he has written. One is the macroeconomics text, as well as the study guide that is accompanied by a website referenced for students who are taking his courses. His 7 published works are utilized by colleges across the country in teaching economics. In addition to publishing coursework, Professor Kulkarni also is involved with the publishing of the Indian Journal of Economics and Business, which is a double anonymously refereed international journal published 2 times a year in June and December. These published works involve well-researched and high-quality academic, empirical, and theoretical studies. Well, as you know, Professor Kulkarni, we are doing interviews of Americans who are either average citizens, they are involved in entrepreneurship or education, and they're out there solving problems. And we're curious about what problems they're solving and how they're implementing it. And you are uniquely qualified because you're not only an entrepreneur, but you're an educator. So before I pose some questions to you, I thought I would ask a question about why did you come to America? How did you get involved in economics, and why Metropolitan State College of Denver?
Well, there are answers to all of those questions. I was a pretty good, hard-working student in my college days in undergraduate. I topped the class in economics department, and I wanted to do masters, which I did in India, and then I wanted to do Ph.D. in economics, and I was just motivated to learn economics as a science because it really entertained me and educated me, of course. So I applied to a lot of big schools to get scholarships, and I ended up getting a good self-supported teaching assistantship in the University of Pittsburgh. So I came to Pittsburgh, and I finished my Ph.D. from 76 to 80, and then after 1980, I immediately realized, the first class I taught on my own, I knew that this is where my heart belongs, and I just wanted to teach. So I know it sounds odd to some people, not to me, but to some people it sounds odd that I always wanted to teach all my life, and this is therefore a dream come true for me. And right after my PhD, I jumped into the teaching profession. And I taught at different places. I taught initially in Pennsylvania, then to Arkansas, and then to Louisiana, and then we started looking for some more places to go settle with our family, and we thought Denver will be a good one. So Metropolitan State College of Denver came up with this job offer, which I immediately grabbed in 1989, and I've been here ever since. So it's about 22 years now I've been here. And part of the reason I'm here is because I enjoy doing what I do, and that's why I'm here.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I'm gonna ask some more questions about some of your other entrepreneurial ventures in a minute, but in terms of posing the question about economics, we had asked you to prepare a proposed solution for the American economic situation, and I'm going to ask you to consider several different things in your answer. First of all, what proposed solution? Secondly, when you are thinking about proposing a solution, what types of problems do you think that you might encounter, or other types of roadblocks that you would encounter to implement it? And then finally, how long do you think a proposed solution such as the one you'd like to talk with us about would take to enact?
Actually, there are all theoretical answers to these questions. I don't really have a timeline in my mind that this is going to take 2 years and 3 months to come back or anything like that, because the answer to that is as long as it takes to get the things right, that's how long the economy will be in pretty bad shape. And the macroeconomic problems of the US economy are a product of several policy errors that we have done over the years. It's not just one shot which has really made our economy go under. It is a combination of a series of bad choices by the policymakers and the politicians. And therefore, the solution to this economic mess is not going to be very easy either, because the hard problems have hard solutions, and problems that are created for a long time take a long time to solve them. And therefore, therefore, whatever solutions we come up with are probably, there is no timeline to how long these solutions will take. But to summarize what kind of problems we have had, and what kind of, there are different areas that we should be looking at. We have some policy issues, we have some political issues, we have some business issues, and we have some consumer issues too. Well, if we start with the consumer issues, consumers are obviously always out there to spend more and find out new products to consume, but if they don't really get enough income, then of course they cannot spend as much. And therefore a generation of higher income is probably the reason why the consumer expenditure increases in the future. Well, as far as the business sector in the US is concerned, that's where most of the problems are, because business sector is having a very gloomy future right now. There are a lot of uncertainties either created by policymakers or the lack of technological growth, and because of this very gloomy and a very unexpected gloom and doom in the future, businesses are not really adventurous, and because they are not adventurous, there is no entrepreneurship, there is no innovation, and there is no technological growth. And if you look at the historical perspective in the US, in each and every economic recovery, there is some kind of a technological growth. Like in 1960s, we had automobile, the telephones, and all the consumer goods that which in economics we call them capital-intensive goods. That's where most of the production focus was, and that gave us the boost in 1960s. In 1980s, we obviously had a technological change with more computers popping in, and in 1990s, which became the most prosperous decade ever in the history of US, the reason for that was obviously the information technological change, and also just amazing positive expectations for the future. And all these positive expectations for the future were replaced by starting with 2001. Of course, 9/11 was a big shock, but then there is a shock about the external war. There is a shock about government doing way too much in terms of spending, and a very unreasonable, excessive expenditure by the government, which led to the debt problem, the national debt problem. And that kind of problems have given rise to the chaos that we are in right now. And I think, as I said, the solutions are not easy for them.
Well, what would you suggest that we do? What types of steps do you think that we can take as U.S. citizens to solve these problems?
Well, actually, the easy and the simple answer is to stop doing whatever we have been doing for the last 10 years. And for that, I guess a good idea will be for the policymakers or the politicians, number one, become very transparent and very integrity oriented, because the political integrity is questionable. I think policymakers say one thing before the election, when they become congressmen, senators, and even the president, they start saying other things. The classic example of that is the presidential candidate, President Obama, had on 60 Minutes said that the Iraq war will be over on the 100th day of my presidency. Now we probably are crossing his 1000th day of his presidency, but none of those things have happened. And I think what probably happens is that the policymakers recognize that there is one thing to assure and give promises to the public, and then actually go to the office, and congressmen do the same thing, that when they go to the office they behave in a different manner than what they had. So first thing, and then people start questioning whether there is any amount of integrity on the part of policymakers or not. And I'm not really blaming only Democrats, Republicans, but the overall behavior of policymakers for the last 30 years have been very, very questionable. And of course we have to reverse that trend, and to reverse that trend is to give promises to the public that they can actually keep. And once people start recognizing that there is some amount of transparency and integrity on the part of policymakers, then things probably start becoming more positive. And that's why it brings me to my first answer, or the first sentence to this interview, is that as long as it takes for the policymakers to do that, that's how long it will take for the economy to rebound. Nonetheless, we can also have some very positive outside shocks to the economy. And as I said, the first outside shock could be the technological change. If businessmen, entrepreneurs, innovators come up with new techniques of production, then aggregate supply of the economy increases much faster. Take the case of, say, my birth country, India, which for a very, very long time in a very stagnant economic growth, but in the last 20, 30 years, there are two things that have happened why India is now the second fastest growing economy in the world. One is the innovation, the software and the computer solutions that Indian businessmen are coming up are becoming world famous all over, and then the growth is driven by that sector. The second is India's realization that unless they go worldwide and increase the international trade, they cannot really grow very fast, and that realization happened sometime in 1991 and 1995, and then all this higher connection with the rest of the world has really made the Indian economy grow. Well, the US economy is obviously 10 times bigger than India's economy, but if we get a similar force 10 times higher in the US, which is not impossible, because as I said, we have always done it, and I have a faith in American enterprise, I have faith in American businessmen as well as the innovators. So someday it is going to happen, but don't ask me to put a timeline on it.
So we need to become more adventurous and entrepreneurial in our country again. We need to focus on and encourage entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, and I think policymakers and the politicians have to support it and do everything possible to make the private sector grow. And obviously the policy decisions for that is have more subsidies for the businesses, which can also come in the form of lower taxes, for the businesses, low taxes for the consumers, and therefore the tax reduction. But you cannot blindly do the tax reduction because that only increases your national debt problem more. So I think a good idea is obviously to stop all the increase in government expenditure right away, give a reasonable promise to the public that we will increase the government expenditure no more than 2 or 3% every year for next 5 years, and stick to that promise, and obviously have more tax breaks, and find a long-run solution to very important questions like Social Security, the national debt problem. And I don't think right now the policymakers are in that mood. Right now there is just way too much political bickering going on. Both parties are blaming each other, and then nothing is really happening. And obviously American public is confused, including me. I really don't know what the policy steps are for the future. So that creates more uncertainty, and that creates more economic stagnation.
Well, I think the American public is actually exhausted based upon the lack of leadership that is being shown in Washington all the way around, and that if we were to take matters into our own hands, what we're doing as consumers, how we're spending our money, how we're spending our time, focusing on creative ways to solve the problems within our own control is a good first step. But, you know, entrepreneurship, I think, is one of the main things that we can focus on. And as you know, I'm really a huge fan of that whole concept. And I wanted to talk a little bit before we let you go. Thank you so much for all of your ideas and your concepts. But I'd like to talk about the fact that you have published several texts for teaching young people the subject of economics. And we have already reviewed a little bit about the opportunities that you have provided both in text, study guides, and your website. But can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to start publishing your own texts?
I think that has some interesting history, because the way I teach is that I give a lot of things for students to take home and study at home. So I write quite a bit on the board. I give them a lot of class notes. And so one time back in 1986, and I was 23 that time, 33 that time, and my student commented that, Professor Kulkarni, you make us write so much in the class that we can actually write a book with your notes. And then it just popped up to my mind, if she's writing a book, why shouldn't I write my own book? So my first book originated back in '86 as just a class note approach, a small book, and because that was a small book, easily priced and all, students just absolutely loved it, because they saw in the book almost everything that they were seeing in the classroom, and therefore we sold several copies of that. And then we ran into another edition of that, and now we are this book is a product of that original book in 1986. So we are in the 5th edition of this macro textbook now, and all these editions have done very well market-wise.
Well, absolutely incredible. I mean, that shows entrepreneurship in education, which I'm thrilled about. And I also wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the Indian Journal of Economics and Business. You had spoken earlier about this very subject. I mean, amazing. I'd like to know how you started getting involved in creating this. I mean, an example for our listening audience of one of the articles, the scholarly articles written, is Skilled Migration from India to the United States, Contextualizing in the Backdrop of Global Economic Crisis. So tell me a little bit about how this happened, and you also could talk, if you wouldn't mind, about the specific Congress that you hold in New Delhi on an annual basis.
Well, it's a biannual basis. So we had one in 2009, and we will have one in 2011 now, and then 2013 and all. But actually, it is a group of economists such as myself who have originated from India and have been doing research abroad. So in order to have some kind of a common platform for them to write and publish, we started this journal. A co-editor of mine from University of Baltimore, Professor Bansi Sani, and I, we started this. And It has been in business for the last 11 years, and it has done marvelously. The response of the academic community to it has surpassed my expectations, and we sell several thousand copies of this in India as well as in the US, and the journal has really become very, very famous. Its website is very active, ijeb.com, and what we essentially do is we collect the articles from all over the world on India specifically, but also non-Indian studies. If they are of a quality, then we consider publishing them there too. But all these studies of the academicians are published in this journal, and we do 3 issues now instead of 2. The demand has grown so much that we decided from 2 years ago that we will have 3 issues a year now, and occasionally we also have some special issues on special topic, and we did that too. Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Yeah.
And I can see by just looking at the one journal that you provided me that you're actually providing suggestions to governments around the world about things that they could consider.
Well, actually, we try. But I think that's what essentially academicians do. And the part of this is the job that we have. Once we teach 9 hours or 12 hours a week, we are basically free to do what we want to do, and especially Metro is a wonderful place to work and do research, and they have always supported me for all these years. So I have, in a way, a free play to do this research, and I exploit it to my best capabilities.
To its fullest extent,
yeah,
right?
Extent.
Okay, one more question before we go. I noticed in looking at your website that you're a founding member of a mentorship group called the Young Indian Manager.
Yeah, that's an innovative idea. Actually, a publisher in India came up with the idea that we will have a website where youngsters, business students in India as well as abroad can ask questions, and experts can answer those questions.
Oh, I see.
And that website is still under construction, but by next year or so we will be operable, where the experts will answer the students' questions on business matters. And I will be the specialist of global economics and international economics.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. Well, talk about a person who's exemplifying not only excellence in education, but in entrepreneurship. I encourage everyone to visit the websites www.kulkarnibooks.com and www.ijeb.com for the journal. And I thank you again, Professor Kulkarni, for agreeing to the interview.
It was a privilege and honor to be with you.
And for us.
Good luck to your business venture.
Thank you. Thank you very much.